Good evening. My name is Michelle DeGrossa. I'm the Supervisor of Arts Education here in East Brunswick. Sorry we're a little after 7. A really great problem that we have here is that we have almost 300 students in the orchestra at Churchill. So that's a lot of little bodies to get on the stage behind us, and not all of them are even up there right now, but I think that they are set. They have been practicing so hard. For those of you that are going to the 7th grade parents out there, that's who's coming on right now, it's the 7th grade orchestra. Think back just a few years ago, not that long ago, when they were doing those first notes there, half-cross buns, all that good stuff. And when you hear them tonight, I want you to really reflect back on, really, that wasn't very long ago. And the progress they make in these young years of playing is just astounding. And it's to, attest to your support of them. They're practicing, and they're outstanding music educators that work with them every single day. So without further ado, we have Mrs. Mary O'Mara directing the 7th grade orchestra. Please give them a round of applause.
very proud of their work and their dedication and their focus. We've come a long way since September. It's been really awesome to see this work come to life, and I appreciate your support at home for our music program, and I just can't wait to see where they continue to go. Our last piece is a jazz-inspired piece called Shadows in the House. Let's hear it for 7th grade orchestra. So bear with us, we had a quick set change and we'll be back with the honors orchestra. Thank you.
How was that 7th grade? All right, so we have a lot more for you this evening. So for those of you that have been at Churchill a while, you know that as the students progress through the programs, once they get to Churchill, they have the opportunity to audition to be in an advanced honors orchestra group. So those are the students that are here behind me, and they are going to perform for you this evening. They've been working very hard. We have additionally an instrument that you don't always see in a school orchestra. We have a harpist here this evening as well. And this group this year is being directed by Ms. Susan Muse, and she's coming on out right now. So welcome to the Honors Orchestra.
So that piece, Variations 1984, it's a very modern piece, something that you're probably not used to hearing at a school orchestra concert, but is something I couldn't resist doing because I had to feature Alan and Chloe, and another round of applause for those. So I'd just like to thank you all for coming out, and thank you for everyone's support for our music program here. We really have a wonderful thing happening, and I'm so glad we're all a part of it. And we're going to end with Fire in the Forge.
all one big round of applause. You will be hard-pressed to find many school districts that have this robust of a program in a junior high school. And like I said earlier, really the outstanding music teachers that they get to work with every single day is what keeps this going, along with your support, of course, and you guys practicing your instruments, good job. But the teachers go above and beyond just the teachers that work with them at Churchill, almost all of the rest of our orchestra staff in the district, our high school piano music production teacher, they're all here helping tonight on their own time because that's really what they do, how they support each other and keep these great programs going. So can we give all the teachers here this evening a round of applause? So our final portion of the concert this evening is going to be directed by Mrs. Sarah Franchino, and who you see up on stage right now is the combined 8th and 9th grade orchestras, along with the students from the advanced orchestra that just played for you previously. When the concert is done, since there are so many of us and it's a little tight out there, if you could please meet your child either in the lobby or outside. The parking lot is all coned off, but please refrain from going in the cafeteria. They're going to get their stuff and they're going to come to you. So without further ado, Mrs. Franchino and the 8th, 9th grade and advanced orchestra.
Florence Price's name has gained increasing recognition in the classical music world as her compositions are rediscovered and performed globally. Born in 1887 in Little Rock, Arkansas, Price graduated high school as valedictorian at age 14 and went on to study piano and organ at the New England Conservatory.
Amid the racist Jim Crow era, Price's remarkable achievements stand out. She won a composition competition with her Symphony No. 1 in E minor, becoming the first African-American woman to have her music performed by a major symphony orchestra. In 1933, the Chicago Symphony performed at the World's Fair.
The Old Boatman, originally written for her piano students, has since been arranged for string orchestra. The Old Boatman is a soft, calm piece. It has a gentle rhythm as well as rich harmonies. This piece is a great example of how Florence Price was able to convey deep emotion and narrative through her music. This song remains a testament to her enduring legacy. We are proud to feature her work tonight and encourage you to explore more music from composers who perhaps have not gotten as much attention as they deserve.
Good evening, and thank you again so much for coming out tonight. We're going to do a quick stage change. I just wanted to acknowledge our bass section. They had a nice little solo there at the end, and they did a great job. Usually you don't get to hear solos from the bass section. Just really quickly, we wanted to thank everybody here, as Mr. Grossa mentioned, who is here from ED staff, also our administrators at Churchill. We couldn't do this without them, and an extra special thank you to all your parents for this year. I think we can all agree that we're so lucky to work and live in a community like this, and I'm just really going to miss a lot of these ninth graders next year. They've come such a long way, and I'm very fortunate to have worked with them, a lot of them since 7th grade. So before the last piece, I just wanted to say that. Have a great evening, and here's Blue Fire Fiddler.